Tick, zoom. Okay, we are on air. All right. So, first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. My name is Carmel, and this is Gabby, and this is Gozde, and we are part of the desperately seeking community, which is an online-based community for emotional and mental health for the online life. And before I will continue telling a little bit more, if anyone wishes to ask something that is here on the chat and that is here on Zoom or via Facebook, you can either raise your hand in the emoji or write in the chat. And if you raise your hand, I can personally put your speaker on, and if it's via chat, then I will refer it. And I would like to thank our sponsors for today, the people of Custom Doggy Style Graphics Citizenship, Schmooger Ranked Free Search Engine, and We Were Your Father for His Funeral, and non-binary vegan clothes and toilet accessories. It's a cool store in Berlin. And tonight's subject is how to be toilet smart. And I'm going to give now the stage to Gozde. And I will remind again, if anyone wishes to ask something, write it in the chat or in the emoji. And I would also like to thank our, let's see how many viewers we are in the channel. All right, we are already at 4,012. So thank you also for joining us. And Gozde, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. I know I'm in Berlin right now. The weather is amazing. So double thank yous for staying inside and joining us. Yes, like Karma said, today's conversation is about sanitation, cleansing, and sanity. And apparently, I just found out while doing my research for this that there's the sanity and sanitation. The words come from the same Latin word sanus, meaning healthy. So, some fun facts for you before we start. I will shortly talk about how my sanitation habits, like many of us actually, changed in the past 2 months, maybe a bit more than 2 months. And more importantly, how my relationship with my environment changed. I was reading this paper, a colleague of mine, a friend of mine sent a couple days ago. It's called Equidistance Points by Seth Berry-Water. It's beautiful, beautiful writing. And in the paper, he quotes Hannah Arendt from Human Condition. And I would like to start with that part. It's never bad to start with Arendt. So let's go. To live together in the world means essentially that the world of things is between those who have it in common, as a table is located between those who sit around it. The world, like every in-between, relates and separates at the same time. So, this quote made me think about my relationship with my familiar in general, both the people and the objects. I think from the beginning of this pandemic, the change in the human interaction was the most striking one for everybody. And it affected all of us deeply. We got hurt, we got annoyed at the loud ones. It's a whole mess. And I also realized how much my perspective on, or perception of objects changed. It's a strange kind of thing that like one needs to relearn touching and interacting. I was monitoring mostly this. Like I had to forget everything I knew about like recognizing or touching. There was no longer an autopilot behavior anymore. It was strange because you wouldn't just like hold the doorknob and open it, but it's become this like whole process of like touching something like and thinking about it and then thinking about how to clean it, where to clean it. Should I watch it with my hand, or do I do the elbow move like this? It's like a whole thing. Yeah, and also it's like the turning the tap to wash your hands and turning it off. It's like, yeah, it's become a thing. So at this point, I go back to Arendt somehow, and I say, like, if Arendt said the object defined or embodied the limits and safe zones between the people in the public sphere, it has gotten more narrow now. Like, it's as if we have become this mental buffer between ourselves and the objects. And it's funny how much of a minefield it is now in the house. Like, when we come home, there's this whole carefully coordinated ritual before we actually feel at home. Carmen, do you want to say something?
Yeah, I was thinking about the time I served the army. Don't like this image. Sorry. And I had this thing, you know, in Israel, boys and girls has to serve the army, and I served the army for 2 years, like every other woman or girl, because this is the age of girl. And I had the uniform, and most days I would have come back home, but I felt like I cannot sit on the chair or on the bed or in the living room with my uniforms. I always felt I used to hang them on the door and have nothing else touch it. And if I was going out the room and had my elbow touch it, I felt I need to clean it afterwards.
Yeah.
And it like gave me this, well, maybe that's just personally me and my point of view, but I felt that there is something very dirty, not just a different space, it's very dirty. Just like trash or like, I felt disgusted a bit, but it was only when I came back home. When I was there, I held it together, but when I came back home, I couldn't see them. This is why I put them on the door and the outside, so I won't see them when I go to sleep. I don't know, just...
Yeah. It's funny you brought up army right now, because I was gonna say, like, it's become this like minefield right now, but this time it's like we are the mines, and just like trying to find our way around the house, you know, like we come home, we like hang things really carefully and wash our hands really carefully, put the clothes on one side. It's like the whole ritual. And I think it's a really strange feeling, like this lack of autopilot thing. Like, now objects have their own personality even. They're not these like passive things anymore, like we can just absent-mindedly interact with without expecting any consequences. It's like they pose some kind of threat to us. And this, I think this creates a new kind of alienation. Like, I realize I don't have the same relationship to my things anymore, you know? Like, I'm always ready to like not engage. I mean, it's not only the objects, but also my own flesh, you know, like my hands. I'm still learning to treat them as this like alien things. They're not me. They're not part of the healthy, safe me. I can never not be aware of them. It's really strange. And the same paper that I mentioned before, the Equidistant Points, also quotes this book called Crowds and Power by Elias Canetti. And there's this like really striking part in the book. It says, there's nothing that man fears more than the touch of the unknown. He wants to see what is reaching towards him, or at least be able to categorize it. Yeah, right now it's like even a small touch, like one of our 5 senses is being compromised. We are deprived of a very, very human thing. It's not just like human interaction, not just the lack of warmth. It's a really strange thing, like we can't just touch things anymore. And I think this brings another level of anxiety, because you can't touch without thinking.
Yeah.
Like you always have to be on this survival mode. You have to be like ready, not be caught off guard, you know, like the touch of the unknown. Like now everything is just basically unknown. Like who touched this before? I received something from Amazon, or like I went to the store, like, oh, the person who touched this maybe had the virus or something. It's like really, it's a mind fuck. Yeah, I was just thinking about like how being alienated from one's physical surrounding is like another level of anxiety. Like we're not connected to the outside world anymore. It feels like that. Like the hands became alien. It's it's really strange. Yeah. Oh,
I'm here. This time around, I'm supposed to focus us and make sure that the conversation is streamlined.
yes, please do that.
So I will bring up something. I am reporting live from the toilet, as we
Great.
do. Carmel, you gave up your wallpaper image eventually.
Yeah, I didn't found any wallpaper I liked, and the stream doesn't work from the restroom. I tried it, but it didn't.
Well, me and Gozda came prepared, and there's something actually very, very wrong about what I'm doing, which is drinking wine from on the toilet seat. And I think that in some way this connects very nicely to the topic that Gozda brought up, which is basically also the topic of our event, which is how to be toilet smart. So you're talking about relations to objects and people, and how even the hand becomes a form of an abject object, although it's connected to the body. But maybe you want to kind of like funnel it to the main discussion
Yes.
point of today, which is how that reflects on the toilet and what you do in
Yes.
the bathroom, which I think is the one room that we least want to talk about. And at the same time, it might be the most important room inside the house with regard to sanitation and health.
Yeah. I was thinking that like how everything's just like now has a new meaning. All these objects, like not only the way we interacted with them changed, but also like what they mean, the connotations of it. Because we used to have this life outside when we were like out in the physical world, going about our days, just like hanging out with people, getting annoyed at people. But now everything is moved online. We meet friends online, we drink online, we work online. It's just like all these professional and social habitats just like moved online. So the meanings of the screens changed. And now in my free time, I never look at my phone, ever. Like my free time, anything but the screen, anything but the screen. I don't take my phone to the toilet anymore. Like that is saying something. If you don't take your phone to your business, to the toilet, like, you know, like that's the moment that you're like having with your own, it's like actually cleansing yourself, and then just like also emotional like distraction or whatever from everyday's troubles. But now it's just like a moment, a time, hey Inga, a moment, a time without the screen. It's like the screen doesn't have a place in the toilet anymore. I think it's like it's in the past.
Can we ask a question? And could you put this also in the community, Carmel? Can you ask how many people here use their phone over the toilet today during COVID-19 time?
So even before you asked, people started writing. I also stopped doing that. I never did that. You're disgusting people. And Zoe wrote, nothing stops me from taking my cell phone to the restroom because my iPad doesn't let Feedly work. Feedly is an app for it's an RSS app. So she reads their, I guess, magazine like I do. I think this is one of the apps I recommended in our app recommending it. And someone said that after he found himself, right, I'm not going to read all of this because it's long. Okay, so he said that before Corona, he had the habit of his phone falling to the bathroom, but now it doesn't happen to him anymore, because when he's in his room, he's not on cell phone. He's like, and he's not going out so much because he was sick. So he was not using his cell phone during this Corona time, only in the bathroom, and now it doesn't fall for him. So he likes Corona, and it makes him smiley.
Great, good for him.
Yeah.
I remember someone told me that there are some dudes, somebody told me actually, that there are some dudes that actually make it explicit on Tinder that they only use Tinder over the toilet. That's like their sanctuary space. So if you've ever felt lucky, you've been picked, that's someone wasting their time, or no, spending quality time with you in their most intimate moments with themselves. Anyone else here? Like I see Kiki wrote, I'm hardcore, I take my Nintendo console.
Yeah.
That's aggressive. That really is hardcore.
Is it a Switch? Probably. Yeah.
How about anyone who's not part of the Desperately Seeking group and you want to comment here on Zoom, feel free to type whether or not you actually use your phone over the toilet.
I will also put the paper I was talking about. So if anybody is interested, you can just read it from there.
So basically, could you somehow sum up how you would basically connect that particular space, the toilet and the phone, to what you brought up earlier? I mean, could you like sum it up in one sentence in a way?
Not one sentence, but maybe 2 or 3. I can try. So no more phone in the bathroom for this gal. And it also feels like bathroom has become this checkpoint, like a no place. You know, like it actually reminds me of Turkish-Greek land border when we visited like ages ago. I was in the elementary school, I think, or middle school. And if you wanted to cross the border to Greece in your car, they would spray sanitary liquids on the vehicle so you don't bring any disease. By the way, that was not the case when you wanted to cross from Greece to Turkey. So you can only bring disease from Asia, as we all know. It's like now our toilets are this like really strange no space portals that we gotta pass through in order to feel safe. Like it's like a whole thing. Like the meaning of the space has changed. I spend way more time there now.
You spend more time on the toilet?
Yes, I mean not on the toilet, but in the room, in the bathroom.
Okay.
I generally have the tendency of taking a long time to pee, and it's one of my favorite rooms, but I am the one person who usually does not take his cell phone to the bathroom a lot. And I think Corona just made me feel like everything is bathroom, like we said, and every different engagement makes me feel like I just want not only to wash my body, but everything else that has been touched, like was said. And I think like there are things I now like to do more with my cell phone. Really was a very good example. It's like just a nice app. I used to read RSS, so I put whatever I want to read there. But also finding like making this space now become more, like Gozda said, my safe place, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
I think in the chat,
Yeah.
someone in the chat here,
Okay, cool. Read the comments here.
She wrote, I really try not to. I heard some podcasts saying we should keep one room communication free and that it's bad for the anus to sit on the toilet too long. She's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
It makes us sit there longer. It's not good.
It has to close every once in a while. Like you can't
Okay.
just like do that.
Huma says that she does take her phone with
Yeah.
her because she's on Quiz Duel. That's like her go-to, I guess, right?
Toilet activity.
I have no idea what is Quiz Duel.
It's like an online game that I'm really good at.
Ah, okay. So you know
Yeah.
what she's talking about.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, let's take this up a notch.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. So what I thought when we had the conversation before, because we discussed a bit of the points before we actually go live, when Gozda actually brought up this topic, was, bear with me, oh my God, this is a perfect example for Foucault's take on biopolitics. And let me segue by saying this, that basically what I really like about crisis situations in general is that they serve as a very radical illustration, usually, to concepts or phenomena that are otherwise pretty ambiguous to a general public. You first heard the term biopolitics, it sounds kind of academic, and I don't think, I think you really need to rack your brain to understand what anyone might mean by that, and if you are not used to scholarship, then you won't read Foucault to actually understand what it's all about. But again, in the case of national or global health crisis, it's very easy to explain it. Basically, the TLDR of what biopolitics is, it's the social and political power over life. In other words, the state has a certain power on you as a living individual or whatever you want to call it. And it has various ways, various strategies, or Foucault would call it a technology, to impose this power, to wield this power on you. So I kind of thought a little bit about this whole concept, and I read a little bit just to try and impart it here, mediate it here. Basically, let's put it like this. Foucault starts with this idea of there being such a thing as biopower before biopolitics. Biopower is literally the state or any kind of polity having power over bodies, okay, over physical, biological bodies. Biopolitics is the way that biopower is wielded. It's the technology, it's the way that power affects us and how they do it. For instance, a good example of biopower is the way the state tries to regulate the ratio of births to deaths, or the rate of reproduction or fertility of a population, okay? How do you do that? So according to Foucault, power becomes encoded in social practices as well as human behavior. You introduce certain things that people need to do that basically help regulate their behavior. The human subject basically reluctantly but gradually accepts these very subtle regulations. It's kind of like what happens when a norm becomes enforced as a force of law. And there are different cultures. For instance, German culture, I think, from my experience, is very much based on the idea of the law is dominant, but there are no strict norms. Whereas where we come from in Israel, I don't know how it is for you in Gozda in Turkey, norm is actually much more important than the law. You force people to feel that they need to do certain things in order to be moral. And through that, you actually coerce them to certain types of behavior, and you can regulate them through that.
You mean like sorry, do you mean like a tradition? Like when you say norm, what do you mean exactly?
I can give a
Normal.
good example from Israel. In Israel, the whole idea of population boom, of having as many children as possible, has been politicized. It basically has been weaponized.
Yes, also in Turkey, yes. Yeah.
In Israel, it has been weaponized under the pretense that after the Holocaust, you need as many people, as many Jews as possible. We need to proliferate, otherwise they will wipe us out. B, because we're in the Middle East, surrounded by quote unquote enemy states, we need to be more than them. Therefore, we need to fuck like jackrabbits and procreate as much as possible. That is a form of biopolitics, okay? And it is also ingrained in religion in Israel, which is the reason why Israel is one of the only states in which there's actually constant population growth, whereas other states are actually on a negative slide right now.
Really? Okay.
Yes. Generally speaking, not that it helps climate change because we're already too many people. Generally speaking, we are on a negative curve. The world's population is slowly reducing itself to, you know, negative reproduction. Anyways, so biopolitics is basically the technology that power uses in various levels, various scales, in order to control its population. And back to the bathroom, because this is the subject that we're talking about.
Gabby, just a remark, in a few more, in like 2 or 3 minutes, we're going to move to the next Zoom link.
Okay, so I think this is great, because that would force me to shut the fuck up and stop rambling with this academic jargon. Let's see if I could drive this point home in 3 minutes. Okay.
And then you can find the second link on the event page. So
yeah,
exactly.
And I'm sorry for the viewers from Facebook. We had problems, but I always keep fixing it. And in the channel, it most of the time runs smoothly. But I thank you for your patience. Okay.
But we're recording the Zoom conversation.
Yeah, and it's all live. Just every few moments it jumps. So this is why I'm always like this, because I'm always checking that it works everywhere and keep updating and moving the screen randomly, and it makes it work for some reason.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry.
So let's see. I see that I have 4 minutes to drive this point home. So let's go back to the bathroom, okay? I think the bathroom right now, under the conditions of lockdown and COVID-19, is a perfect example for biopolitics. On one hand, it's the least discussed space in the house. On the other hand, it's the most political room in the house. It's practically weaponized because you could say, and this is something that I took from you, Gozda, that it is a dangerous safe space. Like on one hand, this is the place where you are most intimate with yourself, where you take care of your own body, where you actually, you know, want to do things in a way that makes sense to you, and you would feel very, very uncomfortable if someone told you to do it otherwise. For instance, I remember how uncomfortable I was when I was told that I should pee sitting down in Germany. I was not used to that, and I actually took offense when someone tried to control that. On the other hand, when you are in a situation of a plague, what you do in the bathroom actually has repercussions on life and death situations. Basically, that's the space where the hierarchy, where social norm and state law kind of like blur. No one's going to give you a ticket if you don't sanitize your phone if you took it with you to the bathroom. But the bottom line is, you might be a very bad citizen based on the way you poop and how you use your phone while you poop, because you might accidentally kill your parents because you couldn't resist playing with Tinder over the toilet. If you didn't clean your phone afterwards, you met them afterwards. I don't know what happens. Somehow, you know, some residue. The screen is very, very smudgy with bacteria. Oops, grandma, you died because I was busy swiping left. So that's a really, really weird kind of situation because the most intimate space in the room suddenly becomes this place in which we need to be responsible for our loved ones in the weirdest way possible. So I think it's just a really, really funny illustration of biopolitics in the most unexpected way. Yeah, that's more or less where as far as I went with this idea.
Is it okay if I take it from here?
Yeah, sure.
So before we will move to the next link, there's something Kiki wrote. Won't lie, I don't trust anyone who sits down on public toilets. Okay, this is funny, but my psychotherapist told me that this mindset is exactly what is like to have severe OCD. She joked that now everyone's are on the level. So for the Facebook viewers, again, I'm sorry, but it's still the same stream. I'm gonna post now the new link for the Zoom, and in the channel in Facebook, no, we are staying with the same stream, just you will have a black screen for a bit in the meantime. So I think this is a good time for also telling people that are here in Zoom that during the next link, we're also going to open for QA, and if you want to say something, you can either write it here in the chat like you're doing, but you're also very much welcome to open your mic or camera and share something with us, or just put a silly picture but of toilet, but still open the camera for us to see. So I'm posting now the new link, and we will see you all there. Thank you so much.
Bathroom break. Bathroom break.
Yes, exactly. Bathroom break. We are starting to stream.
Hi, everyone.
Hey, Asha, and hey, Bao. We just want to give you a heads up. We are streaming this live. If you do not want to appear on live stream, you should turn off your camera. If you're fine with that, you're more than welcome to stay. We really enjoy the fact that there are many people, but we don't want anyone's privacy to be breached. So just heads up. Good. Wow, but it seems that except for the core team or DS members, everyone else's, except for Kiki and Shima, have changed. So
Yeah.
let's try and recap. Okay, Gozda, you have
5 minutes.
10 seconds to recap.
Well, okay, I'll try. I basically try to say that this pandemic did not only affect the human interaction, did not just hinder that human interaction thing, but it also created this distance between us and the objects we normally interact with. We don't have anymore the luxury to just absentmindedly engage with things that we used to engage with. Like everything is posing some kind of a threat. Is it clean? Should I touch it, or do I do the elbow move, or like this like really strange present state that we have to be in order to just like be safe. There's this feeling. It feels like that. So I think this creates some kind of anxiety, because even when you come home, it takes a whole ritual, whole like activity, rounds of activity to actually feel at home. We are not we are now deprived of one of our basic senses, touch. We cannot just touch things anymore. We have to think before we touch, and after we touch, it's become a very strange phenomenon. So I guess this was like, without, if you take out the quotes, the academic or
Let's take out the quotes.
blah blah blah, this is what I was trying to say, I guess. And also I was talking about how bathroom has become this like a no space portal thing that we have to go through in order to feel safe. And how objects change their meanings, like it's just, they're not just screens anymore. Like all of our lives, all of our professional and social habitats basically just moved online, moved to screens. So there is a different kind of engagement with these objects now. And personally, I don't spend my free time with my phone anymore. Like I don't take my phone to the toilet anymore. That's like a past activity for me. It's like a no screen zone, no phone zone after the pandemic. So yes, that's it.
So just to update everyone, I am actually reporting live from the toilet right now as we speak. And where we left things, I'll try to summarize my take on it. First of all, this whole idea of the toilet being referring to something that Gozda once defined as a dangerous safe space. She didn't talk about the toilet as a dangerous space, safe space, but rather of her own project. But I think that today
Yes,
we could
that was a completely different thing.
yeah, it was a completely different drunken discussion, literally. But I do think that it applies to the toilets today. And in the sense that the toilet, on one hand, we approach it as a very, very safe, intimate space. This is where we basically confide with ourselves. And it is very, very hard for us, I think, to change our habits or to be told what to do in the toilet, because this is really our alone time with ourselves in the most intimate way possible. But on the other hand, this is a space that has been very politicized, because that is where our most private and most important sanitary practices are being conducted. What you do in the toilet might actually have an effect on your loved ones if you don't sanitize properly, if you don't abide to the norms and the recommendations. I mean, it starts with, I don't know, do you take your phone with you to the toilet? Do you clean it later on? And does it actually pose any danger to other people if you don't act properly in this particular private room, which did not used to be that much of a concern before. And what I said was that, in a sense, this is a very nice example of what Foucault defined as biopolitics, which is the way in which the state introduces certain regulations, certain things that are somewhere between norm and law. It is not exactly clear. This is really a cultural thing. In some cultures, norm is more important than law, and in other cultures, law is different from norm. But when it actually permeates this sanctuary space of the bathroom, suddenly you really feel as if the state is actually regulating your most private practices in this room. Like, am I a bad citizen when I am not flushing properly, if I'm not cleaning my phone, if I'm even taking my phone with me to the toilet? And I also think that generally, again, to recap, crisis situations are a great way to understand very cumbersome academic concepts in a very, very vivid way, like biopolitics, the way in which the state conducts your biology, you as a person, and penetrates your most private sphere, is very, very clear in a state of crisis like a pandemic, right? And the way that we're all reduced into numbers of death and sick tolls and polls and what have you, and the way that you feel that everything that you do in your little room might actually have an effect on entire society. So if you spend your time on the toilet playing with Tinder, again, you might accidentally infect your loved one because you'll, I don't know, give them your phone and it's smudgy and your bacteria will be on it, or what have you. More or less, that's to sum it up. And actually, Carmel, maybe this is a good point to kind of think of good ways in which technology and the toilet won't kill us, but actually help us through in these trialing times. I mean, I think recreational activity could actually be a thing that you could do, except for Tinder, over the toilet.
So there are a few things we're talking about in the community. And one is always scouting for new apps that are interesting and fun to do, but also thinking about the device itself, like what can it facilitate for me during that time, and not just the content itself. So we had many recommendations. about using the apps where you can paint or sketch with your finger. And some girl was saying that it really relaxes her while she's in the restroom. And she's now doing a blog about it, by the way. I will post a link. It's really, really funny. And so all of these apps where you can just like either create this animation or this sketch, but what is interesting in our discussion about this is the movement of your finger, which is something you're not usually doing in the restroom. You're like more doing like this and less doing like this. So this, we thought it would be nice. And now we're all doing that. So that's our new thing. And this is nice because we call it toilet sketches. And then each time when a person is in a toilet, he sends a sketch. And it's a very, very funny group. So because we're also not really wanting to directly say an app, and we're not trying to find an app that is very specific, but a general notion of what apps can we use, because each person likes other aesthetics and coloring, and there are so many apps for sketching and stuff. So that is the main thing that is hyped now. And also all these RSS apps, personally, I mentioned it already, I like Feedly, it's very nice, and I know a lot of people like it. And this is also a game we're doing because the notion of these RSS apps is that you put in whatever websites you want, and then you scroll like this, and then you mark when you finish reading everything. So a lot of papers and magazines have the same titles, so we're trying to search for same notion of title, like Scientific American writes the same article as Scientific something else. Very similar, but a bit different phrasing. So this is also a game we're playing. And of course, with BBS News and all those other things, it's always the same headlines in every newspaper. So this is now the fun games in our community, toilet sketches and finding just headlines that look the same. And
has anyone tried to read Foucault over the toilet? I mean, I think that's the perfect place to read Foucault.
I'm sorry. I want to say that I don't like people that read it because afterwards the book is feeling dirty.
But your phone is fine.
Yeah, because I can wipe it, and it's like plastic.
But you could use you could use the book to wipe.
Yeah, but the book, the smell can stay. Just a page. You cannot really clean a paper. It can absorb germs very differently.
It's not possible.
Kiki says, but then you can read them. You're right.
Okay, I am the OCD person. Like I wash everything when I come from home, like whatever I got from the grocery store. You can't wash a flour package because it's paper. It's the same problem. What are you gonna do with that? It's a huge problem.
Yeah.
Just wanted to add that.
So there you have it. This is what your theory is worth. Nothing, because it's not sanitary enough.
I want to say that I think it's a good time for me to do a toilet break, because when you had one, I needed to do all the technical things.
Okay, so you go to the toilet. I will I see a nice comment by somebody who says, I was just thinking about a discussion once in a seminar about the relationship between us and objects, us being a subject and trying to not see it like that, but focus on how the objects become the subjects as well in this encounter. I think it was related to Brian Musami's theory on affect, but not only. Okay, so But by the way, this is supposed to be the Q&A round, which took us a while to start. So if any of you guys or gals or non-binary people want to say something or reflect or comment, this is a great time to do so. I hope that you can turn off or turn on your microphones and that it's not Komel who's controlling it. You tell me.
I
Yasha,
just
I
want
see that
to make
yeah.
2 comments.
Yeah.
What you were talking about, Gabi, was interesting. The power politics, and also before then, I spoke with Gozda. I got a recap on what you were talking before I joined, and it's just like two small thoughts. One is I recalled that I read a book by Henry Miller called "The Books in My Life," and one of the chapters is called "Reading in the Toilet." So I don't remember the content so much, but now I looked it up in on Google, and I got redirected to an article of a recent research that was done about lavatory reading.
Okay.
And how actually it's healthier to read paper books rather than e-readers in the toilet in terms of microbial dissipation.
Okay.
And also apparently it's good. It has positive effects on constipation. Reading in the toilet.
Oh, it does have.
This is scientific research.
Because the where we ended last time before we switched to this new Zoom session was that actually it's not too healthy to stay too long on the toilet because of the rectal activity that you need to, yeah, what Gozda is demonstrating now very visually. So you make a case in favor of actually taking your time because it helps with constipation, assuming that you're constipated.
I'm not making the. I mean, I'm sharing the link here. I shared it by mistake privately to Kiki, but now
Okay.
I've shared it to everyone.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing is, I find an absurdity in the sense that we've been so attached to our phones, and now we're cradling them like we're even cleaning them. We're giving them a shower. Time of Corona, it's kind of like this. I don't know if it's right to say self-fulfilling prophecy, but in a sense, it underscores our relationship that we've established with our phones even more during Corona. That we have to kind of treat them as these almost living things, because we're cleaning them like we would clean a baby.
Yeah, but actually that connects very, very well to the quote that I just read from the Desperately Seeking chat about this idea of us not being able anymore to distinguish between ourselves and the objects, or realizing that any claim to objectivity or subjectivity today has been completely obfuscated. I mean, because the phone is some kind of an extension of us, but on the other hand, we feel that it is not exactly us, but we need it in order to communicate with the world, which is what makes it so hard not to take it with us to the toilet.
Yeah.
And so we have like this very strange love-hate relationship with this object. We try to, set it apart from us as much as possible, but we always need it with us. And then when we intimize it, suddenly we don't know what to do with it. Do we need to clean it the same way that we clean ourselves? Are we, like you say right now, by doing that, actually kind of complying with the very ritualistic kind of practice under the pretense of sanitation? So it's no longer an extension of us, it becomes us. I mean, right. It's a very, very weird situation. Sorry, I don't think I made a new point as much as I just elaborated on what you just said. Yeah, it's a very strange situation to be in. How many of you here actually just try to do anything possible to not look at your phone as much as possible during the day? I mean, I personally feel like I'm just getting sucked into, like, I pick up the phone, like, without being able to control it. And the moment I do that, yeah, it's like a bottomless pit. Like, the day just starts unfolding.
When you look at your phone.
Yeah, I mean, I get up. I don't mean to, but my hand kind of like reaches out for it. If I'm smart enough, I will reject it and just go and have coffee. But if I'm not smart enough, and I usually am not, I start scrolling through messages, and it just, instead of actually naturally starting my day, what it usually does is it subdues it, kind of like, I like feel as if I'm starting my day in free fall.
Yeah.
I think that was already in the society before the pandemic. I think it was like a whole smartphone thing. I thought with pandemic it's gotten better actually. Now we're like more seeking for like a human contact, like more real life contact, because of like everything is moving to online, like working online, socializing online, drinking online, like everything is here now, like here.
Okay.
And when I wake up, I don't reach for my phone anymore.
So you're comfortable with everything being in front of you on the screen? You actually enjoy it?
No, that's why, like, I have to go on a screen diet. Like, that's why I don't look at my phone. Like,
okay.
I have Zoom headaches. I have this Zoom fatigue thing they talk about. I don't enjoy it.
Carmel?
Before we bring some response from the community, I thought maybe some people here in the Zoom chat want to respond to your question. Maybe.
Yeah, so I will ask again, has anyone's relationship, or rephrase, has anyone's relationship with their phone changed because of COVID-19, because of the lockdowns? Do you find it easier to disengage? Do you find yourself actually more dependent on your phone because everything has moved online? I think it's very, very tricky. I think one more thing, another thing that I will throw into the mix, it is so particular how every one of us is experiencing this moment. I mean, the same way that our job circumstances change from one person to the next. Some are freelancers, some had 9 to 5 jobs. Others, I don't know, were in a completely different situation. I think this also is very, very particular for each individual. That's why I'm asking, have your relationships changed?
So Kiki here wrote, I have a terrible habit of like unconsciously checking my phone and opening message before waking up fully. Then I forget about it completely and forget to reply to the people who message me. And someone else wrote that she have a new phone, but still not dependent.
Okay, and then that's Inza, who feels...
I cannot hear you.
Yeah, can you
maybe you can unmute yourself.
Maybe...
I think it's on the bottom left of your screen. It doesn't work. She knows, but it doesn't work.
It's not me. I did not unmute you. You can choose yourself.
So maybe Inza,
I think she's writing in the chat now. Okay. She's writing for us in the chat. In the meanwhile, I want to bring Chip comment. Chip is the guy from Illinois that is on the parents groups. And he said that his 2-year-old always takes his cell phone to the bathroom, and then he finds, and the 2-year-old is not really using the bathroom. He's doing like this, there is this potty training thingy. It's like bathroom, but it's smaller. And then the parent put the cell phone there and there is room for it. And then the kid can play. And at the beginning they didn't want, but the kid brought it because he knew that the place in his new puppy, a pooping machine, has a frame just for cell phone. and the father never put it before, but the kid took it there. So that's really funny. I think that like the objects now are immediately putting cell phone for amusement while doing that thing. And now, all right, so she wrote that she cannot unmute herself. She don't know why that is. She never had that before. Maybe
Yeah,
do you want to like log out and rejoin and check it if it works? Yeah, yeah.
By the way, I want to just acknowledge
All
the
right.
potato, floating potato we had.
Yeah, it was amazing.
That was
shouldn't go
bar, right?
unnoticed. That was beautiful.
That was bar.
Beautiful.
Cool. Yeah, I noticed it myself, and thank you for bringing that up again to everyone.
This is the nice thing. Like I saw on someone's Instagram a couple weeks ago, and apparently it said, I mean, it could be like not, it could be not true, but it was just fun to think about it. So they said my boss turned himself into a potato during our Zoom meeting, and then he failed to turn himself back to a normal thing. So he did the whole meeting as a potato. I love it. It's just like the beauty of this bullshit. It's amazing.
He can do his lecture from the bathroom if he wants to.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
And I think we promised not to bring up Zizek, or at least not his bathroom segments. But I think he was like the father of all bathroom cameo appearances. In general, like in public television, each time that they would interview him on RT or whatever, he would always get interviewed from home. Sometimes he would be like the average academic today, where you always see like the complimentary bookshelf with the plant peeking in the frame, which is usually what you see today when public speakers speak from home. But most of the time you would just see just a very abstract white background. And half the time I'm thinking, okay, Zizek is totally on the toilet right now. He's conducting this entire interview in front of, Russia Today or whatever TV channel from the bathroom, and he doesn't give two shits. Pun intended.
Since you spoke, I'm reading from the chat, Gabby and everyone. Since you spoke about faculty biopolitics, something came across my mind. There is I'm sorry, I'm very dyslexic. There is a Tanizaki most influenced book. I think I said it right. She knows. In Price of Shadow, Japanese aesthetic. I know why I said it right, because I have this book in Hebrew.
Okay.
So it praises of shadows, talking about Japanese architecture, approach on intimacy, and talking about Japanese toilet, and it's really cool because
Sounds very interesting.
And this book is really interesting because it talks about the approach is very different from the Western world towards toilets and doing our needs. And usually it's not inside the house. You're going outside, and there is like a small trail you take, and then it's like in the nature. It's a booth, but you have the air, you have the all the plants, and you feel like this process is part of nature and not something you have to hide in a very small room in your home and have it closed, and then the also the smell doesn't go. It's not only that you're not recontributing to the land and the nature and life, it's also about how we then consume it, because it never goes away in the West. It stays in the room, and in the Japanese culture, well, I said it. I'm just repeating what I said.
It sounds
I
super interesting. I'm gonna look into that.
I also would like to say that we have 9 more minutes. So I think this is a good time for people to bring up questions, saying something they would like, because before we will finish, I would like to re-thank our sponsors and our viewers and do our motto. So I think now is a great time for that.
I also posted this link, this paper I mentioned in the beginning of my pitch. I did not get to talk about it in the second round, but if you're interested, it's a very nice text.
Yeah, he talked a lot about the darkness. It was really interesting. And now I understand why I know the name, how to pronounce it. The only reason.
Bar sends some very positive vibes. You could read it in the chat. To be clear, all this is going into a new paper that I'm working on right now, which also relates to Naomi Klein's concept of normality or lack of normality, and how crises actually remind you that the new normal is not normal the same way that normal wasn't that normal to begin with. And I'm going to be reflecting through Foucault on this concept of biopolitics through the space of the toilet to kind of reconsider what new normality and old normality actually mean. So basically, I'm taking all of this and pouring it into a text later on. It's going to be published hopefully soon. I'm waiting. It's in reviewing process. So hopefully I will be able to introduce some stuff from this conversation into it.
Concerning question where he will publish it, we will put things on our page on the event and everything. So when something will be published, we will have a link in our page for things that we're talking about. We're trying to do that, and it's good that you asked, because it will make us remember to post it.
I wish actually that it would be really cool. Okay, so yesterday there was Republica TV. Republica basically postponed their actual festival to August, but reserved the date of May, which was yesterday when the original festival run was supposed to launch. And instead of that, they just ran a completely online program. And I found it actually hilarious because they set up some kind of a newsroom with green screen. It was very, very clear that they're not really there. And at the same time, everyone that they interviewed was in their living room with a complimentary bookshelf at the backdrop, right? And they framed everything so that these living rooms and bookshelves were kind of like taking the center of the frame. So it looked like the new Jesus Christ in an altar was a middle-aged intellectual with a bookcase at the backdrop. And I thought that would be actually really, really nice if we could put together an entire conference only shot from people's bathrooms. Just only from like imagine like 100 speakers and panels debating only from their toilet. And obviously Zizek would give the keynote.
So before we will finish, one last remark for me. I always wanted to do this app for reviewing real-time toilets and restroom in public spaces, and because then you know if it's worth to stand in the line, because maybe there's no toilet paper, and then I just stood in line for a long time, especially in Berlin, in clubs. It's like, and I thought this might be a help for also creating a booth that will only be for people who wants to pee, especially for clubs. And then in the app you can see which booth is that. And yeah, maybe now I will do it. I don't know. I saw this French dude wrote a blog about it, and then it's like derailed me from doing that. So yeah, again, one last remark from Gozde or someone that is here in Zoom community. We will continue the conversation in our channel. I'm sorry, we just have 4 minutes left.
Love each other.
Yeah, so
Don't let the state tell you how to poop.
Important point.
Yeah.
all right, so I want to thank again to all of our viewers. First of all, for the people who are here and join us and contribute to the conversation, and for the people on Facebook, and of course for there. We are now at 6,722 viewers from our community channel. Thank you. And again, I'm going to keep apologizing for our technical problems. It will continue happening, but we're always trying to fix it. Corona took over the internet, but you know, we're always here. And I would also like to thank again our sponsors, the people from Custom Doggy Style Graphic Citizenship, Schmooger Rank-Free Search Engine, and Wear Your Fathers on His Funeral, a non-binary vegan clothes and toilet accessories store in Berlin that I personally recommend. And for the end, for the people who technically can open the microphone, I would very much like you to join us. Like every other meeting, session, workshop we're doing, we like to finish with our motto. So it will be
You can open their mics. Try and open
yeah,
your
they
mic.
can open their mics by themselves. So it will be very nice, Bal and Kiki, if you want to join us. But of course, you don't have to. The Commatolet Internet 6. Oh my God, you're amazing. That's okay. But so you don't have to open the mic, but it will be nice if you like to repeat after me. I've climbed the highest mountains.
I've climbed
the highest mountains.
I've ran through the fields.
I've
ran through the field.
Only to be with you.
Only
to be with you.
I've ran and crawled.
I ran and crawled.
I've scaled the city walls.
I've scaled the city walls.
Only to be with you.
Only to be with you.
But I still haven't found what I'm looking for. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. We'll continue the conversation in the community channel. We would enjoy every comment. We will, and if there is a link we haven't posted, just tell us and we will post it. And hope to see you guys next Friday, 6:10 Germany and CET time zone, and 7:10 Israel time zone. Every Friday we are here now.
Don't forget to flush.
Don't forget to flash.
And vote.
Choose.
Ciao.
Ciao.
We will do this until the minute will be over.
Yeah, let's yeah. This is
until
like,
it will like disconnect all of us.
how do you call this? Glitter fingers? No.
It's about ruach.
Wind fingers? No, there's another name for it.
I know, but it's
jazz fingers.
Wet fingers?
Jazz.
Take,